Hi, I'm Niki, the Obsessive Bookseller, and welcome to this month's Read, Burn, Hoard. At the end of last month's video, I picked shelf number 2, which is the one I will be focusing on for the entire month of April, and let me show you what we're looking at. A wide shot here, shelf number 2, not counting these priority shelves, is this one right here. Nope. Right here. So we have a lot of interesting possibilities here, but most of these are second books in a series that I haven't read. See, we've got the Sarah Ash one here, which I'm actually going to ignore because it goes with those. And then I have actually read half of this book. It's the second one in the Pure series by Juliana Baggett, and I really, really liked that first book. Good Lord. Okay. I'm going to move that one up there just so I have room to work. Anyway, so I've always intended on getting back to the Pure series, but I'd have to reread. It's very bizarre, but it's very good. So if I wanted to, I could focus the entire month on trying to get through that series, but having to reread does not sound super appealing right now. The Stone of the Stars. Know absolutely nothing about this series, but these have been on my bookshelves for frickin' ever. And then we have the Geist series by Felipa Valentine, and I made it about halfway through the first book. We read it for a book club, and I just found a lot of things really dissatisfying about it. I think I found the plot disjointing and convoluted and kind of hard to follow, oddly. But something about the series and the idea for the story has me hanging on to them. So I think perhaps maybe by the end of this month, I should make a decision one way or another if I'm going to try them again or if I'm going to let them go. According to my little tags, they are available in audio, so maybe I'll, instead of trying to read them physically again, maybe I'll go that route. I don't know. And then we have Bradley Beulu. I read the first book in the Shattered Sand series and liked it but didn't love it, but have gone through and collected the entire series in hardcover because I think they're gorgeous. And I really should make time to read the second one, but see, I think I'm going to have to go back and read the first one if I want to do that. And I will say, of all the books on this shelf, the one I am most excited to get into is The Winds of Calicovo by the same author. But unfortunately, I don't have the first book. I only have the next two in the series. So I guess I would have to read the first book eventually anyway to get to the next two. The whole point of this series is to read books that I already own, but this is kind of one of those weird exceptions. And then we have The Goblin Wood by Hilary Bell. This particular story is marketed to both adults and middle grade, like they can't make up their mind what section it's supposed to be in, and I find that a little weird. And I'm actually bringing this book up from, this is the first book, and then we have, oh god, the next two here. So I'm going to switch this and put this one down here. So at least I'm evaluating the first book this month. So that's quite the lineup. I don't think I have any interest in getting to these this month. I'm not sure about that one. Wildly interested in these. I'm not sure if I have the gusto to continue with the ones that I've started that I'm not sure if I want to keep or not. I don't know. I know I don't have any interest in reading these, which, honestly, with how long I've had them and the fact that they are always at like the lowest priority of anything that I do, I might consider those for burning. Like, I just don't see myself reading them. But we shall see. That's what this month is for that serious evaluation. And I know I liked these. I put the second one down because it was a little bizarre and I needed something a little more lighthearted at the time, kind of dark and heavy. As with the others, I'd have to go back and reread the first book before continuing. So, either way, whatever I pick, I think I'm committing to reading at least 2 books in the series this month. And I think I'm going to start with The Winds of Calicovo. Perhaps I will start with that one, and then if I have time, I think the one I'm leaning towards is rereading the Pure series. So we will get started with that. First things first, I need a copy of the first book. First world problems.
Good afternoon. Random while I'm at work update, but I finally had a chance to start a book for this project, and I picked The Winds of Calicovo by Bradley Beulu. My initial impressions of the book are that it's going to deliver heavily on the world building aspect, which is my biggest draw to it. So far, it's pretty good at describing things, but I am still relying heavily on this gorgeous cover art. I feel like this is a case where the artwork actually enhances the story because I'm able to picture exactly what he intended, like right from the start. But it seems like the ships are going to be pretty integral to the story. And, you know, I don't talk too much specifics about books in my channel because I kind of want everybody else like the opportunity to go in pretty vague. I know a lot of readers aren't like me and they don't care about spoilers, but it's important to me. But just the initial premise of this young, like high-ranking individual kind of rebelling against the expectations of his parents, essentially. It's a template I've seen before, but in here it has a couple of different tweaks to it, like a couple of new elements that I've never seen incorporated all at once. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. Way too early to make any kind of assessment, but I am liking it so far. I don't even know if I like the character yet, so I will check back in once I have a little more information. But yeah, so far so good. I am just sitting here in my library taking a few minutes to go through a couple of the books and series I wasn't sure of for my Read Burn Hoard series. Now, there are a lot of series over there that I'm actually excited to read, so it helps that I'm not going through the entire shelf this month trying to evaluate which ones to burn. But I do have a few things that I've been hanging on to for quite a few years that I am just unsure about. So, first one I looked into is The Goblin Wood by Hilary Bell. Before doing research, this is the one that I was most on the fence about, thinking there better be some really compelling reviews to convince me to keep and read this one. And compelling reviews is all there were. I mean, it was a rare person who wrote a review for this who didn't enjoy it. I think the general community on Goodreads has talked me into keeping this one, at least for now. Now I have to decide whether or not the good reviews and the interesting story is going to be enough to get me to read this within the next 10 years, because it's kind of my benchmark. And then looked this one up, Stone of the Stars. I've had this book forever. I have the whole trilogy, and I didn't even know what it was about until doing research for this. I've been painstakingly collecting them and I had no idea, but turns out it's kind of an interesting premise, kind of cliche in a way is the vibe I was getting from the reviews, but there are dragons in this story, so yet another one that I was kind of on the fence about, but now I'm just not sure. Still on the fence, but now with some angst. And then we have Geist, mine doesn't have a cover, by Felipa Valentine. I tried reading this book, made it about halfway through, and then put it down just because I was so fed up with the random decisions the author was making. Nothing made sense. Like, I could not see the logic between characters' thoughts and their actions, and it was driving me crazy. So even though it had a cool premise, and I feel like I should have liked it, I DNF'd it. But I have that DNF'd angst where I'm worried that I put it down too soon, or maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset, and so now I'm doubting myself. This one is still up for evaluation. I also have the entire trilogy by Amber Benson. The first one's called Death's Daughter. It's an urban fantasy. The reviews for this book are not very kind or promising. It's one of the lower rated books that I have come across, and a lot of people are saying that the character is incredibly shallow and vapid and stupid. And those are a few things that I find really hard to read in general. You see, the writing is really pop culture-y, and the author, who I guess it was a main character on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, had a lot of fun writing the book, but she shouldn't quit her day job, was the implication that I was getting. And I liked the little puppy on the cover, thought it was really cute, but I am thinking that out of all the urban fantasies that I want to read, I probably would pick this one up close to last, because the author is not a writer by profession, and that lack of experience is something that I can see now, and I don't enjoy it as much as I could. So I'm thinking that series might be a candidate for unhauling, but it's funny because I went into this evaluation process pretty sure which ones I was going to keep and which ones I was going to let go, and now I'm confused. Luckily, I still have like half a month left, so I can do some more evaluating and just kind of think on it a little bit and check in with my intention for the section and go from there. It's been over a week, and I actually have an update on my Read, Burn, Hoard project. So I started The Winds of Calicovo and have been listening to it here and there. It's got a lot of unique words and language, so I'm having a hard time following on audio, but at least there's not a lot of characters to keep track of. But one thing that stands out to me is, you know how in some fantasy novels the cover has like a cool dragon on it, but the dragon is only in the book for like 2 pages out of 700? So I was afraid that the awesome airship on the cover was going to be just kind of a teaser to something that's not really integral to the plot or the book. But so far, it has been pretty prominent. Those ships are really cool. I love spending time on them. Thus far, I don't have a lot of opinions on the book, but at least it's delivering on what I hoped it would. It's got pretty decent world building, interesting conflict. This world is kind of being, well, not this world, but this country is being ravaged by what they call a blight. So crops aren't producing, people are getting sick, and they can't explain it. So I'm interested in finding out more about that. So this time around, I'm so excited. At least the book that I picked first, I'm actually enjoying. I can't wait to read more. I'm about 25% into The Winds of Calicovo, and I have to say I'm not super blown away by it. I don't feel myself drawn back to reading more and discovering more. And part of the problem is it's really slowly paced, but it doesn't have the substance of content to justify that slow pacing. So it is not like rich with a lot of awesome plot things happening. No deep character explorations. We're basically just going from one intimate conversation to another with the main character, like 5 or 6 different people. And then some action happens, so I'm drawn back in a little bit, but for now, the jury is still out. I'm hoping that as it gets going, I get a little more investment with it, but I had problems with the 12 Kings of Sharakai as well. I never continued the series after reading that one. But that one, I wasn't sure if my lack of connection to the characters was because of the writing or because of the, like, there was a bunch of flashback scenes mixed throughout that book. So many that I thought maybe it kind of pulled away from the current day momentum. But after reading this one, no, I think the author's writing and I just we're not on the same wavelength. That being said, I really like the overall conflict that they're hinting at. I think it's such a cool idea. The main character has like a lot of personal investment in it, so that's a cool element. You know, he's going to kind of work towards it, hopefully. But I am ready. I'm at about 25%, and I'm ready for things to start clipping along a little bit better. I have made up my mind on a couple of my burn candidates, so let's go look at those for a minute. I've been thinking about it for a couple days now, like really seriously, so here we go. Well, first of all, if The Winds of Calicovo doesn't pick up, and if I don't end up loving it enough to want to continue, these will sadly be up for like nomination to leave my house, which I really like the way they look. I'm kind of sad about that, but at the same time, if I don't like the first one enough to purchase it and I don't think I'm going to continue, I may have to make some hard decisions, but we'll see. So the ones I've decided on, let me grab the third book from down below. So these do not have covers. I got them as strips while working as bookseller, and after reading a bunch of reviews for it and taking a look at how many other supposedly amazing urban fantasies I still have to explore, I do not see myself ever getting around to these. And if I do, I have free digital copies available at my disposal, and so I have to ask myself, will I ever physically read these? Even if I do decide to get to the series, which realistically, based on what I know about all the reviews and everything, will not be for a really, really, really long time.
And my benchmark's kind of 10 years, but my more conservative one is 5. I definitely won't get to it in 5 years, but 10 years is not looking too good either. Now, I have been back and forth on these for quite a while, so these also don't have covers. And I started reading this first one, as I've mentioned, and then put it down in disgust about, it looks like, about halfway through. So the only reason that I feel the need to hang on to these physical copies is because I like the covers, but see, they don't have actual covers on them. I just like that the spine reminds me of the actual covers, which is the stupidest thing I can think of to hang on to books that I didn't actually like. But for some reason, I feel like I want to give these another go. I don't remember exactly what threw me off, but I keep thinking, you know, I do want to give that another shot one day. So as of right now, they are available on audiobook, but I'm not willing to spend a full credit on it. So I think what I'm going to do is flag them for one of those amazing 80% off Audible sales that only comes around once every 2 or 3 years, and see if I can pick them up a little more inexpensively then, and in the meantime, free up some space with these physical copies. Now, this is I've really gone off the deep end with these because I've looked it up and there is a compilation of the first 3 books in one gorgeous little hardcover. So this might be a weird 4th category of buy, where if I just cannot bring myself to let go the physical aspect of this one, then I might buy that pretty hardcover. So at least I have something nice to look at. I don't know. Still on the fence. I'm pretty sure these are going, but I don't know what I'm going to do with the series as a whole. I've decided, even though the cover itself does not spark any, ooh, gotta read that the reviews were good enough and the storyline was good enough that I'm probably hanging on to that one. Definitely hanging on to these. If this one ends up being a total bust, then I'm going to switch to the Pure series before the end of the month. But yeah, I'm just hoping this gets better. We'll see. So that leaves this one. I am so on the fence with it. In the whole scheme of things, so first of all, I'd have to physically read this one. It is not available in ebook. So I'm asking myself, would I ever stop reading an arc that I have going in favor of picking up this series? And I cannot see myself doing it within the next 10 years. I have so many books to physically read, and this one just seems to be ever at the bottom of the priority list. However, doing some research on the first book, it actually looks like something kind of fun, something I might enjoy. So I think what I'm going to do is read the first chapter of this one at some point this month and see where I'm at with it. It seems drastic to let the whole thing go, but I really am cracking down on what I think I'm going to read and what I don't think I'm going to get to. And nothing about this sparks, ooh, I really want to read that. It makes me feel like, oh, well, I probably should read that eventually because I've been hanging on to it for so long. And that fear of missing out thing, what if I let it go and it's super good because it's only available in a physical copy, so it's not like I can pick it up somewhere else. That's where I'm at. And the elephant in the room, totally keeping these because I think they're beautiful, even though, as we are discovering, I'm not loving the author's writing style. But for now, these are being hoarded. It has been 2 weeks since I've checked in with my Read Burn Hoard, and I have some updates for you. Probably not as awesome of updates as I was hoping, but basically I set down The Winds of Calicovo for over a week and had really no remorse about not spending more time on it. And I picked it up again last night and read about 4 or 5 chapters, and I am not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. I'm finding the language unnecessarily dense. He's definitely going for a specific style, and that means he's using more prepositional phrases than he needs to. He's not using contractions like can't or wouldn't. And for me, those things, personally, I don't like it when they draw out the sentences doing that. It's, in a way, it's kind of how children's books are presented, and I find it just a tad condescending. But I do realize that some authors really like the sound of it, and they prefer the way the sentence sounds with everything like spelled out. But for me, it's probably adding a good extra 25% of senseless words that don't need to be there. And the action scenes, like you read 50 pages of dialogue and introspect, and then you get half a page of action, and the point where I'm kind of dozing by that point, and when the action hits, I'm like, whoa, okay, I gotta back up and read that again because I missed it. And then they'll spend another 50 pages analyzing and discussing what happened in that little action scene, and it'll rinse and repeat the whole way through. And so I'm kind of finding it a slog. And for a book that is focused so much on, dialogue between the main character and this person, the main character and that person, this person and this person, there's not a lot of character depth. Like, I feel like everybody still feels at surface level, and I think the way it is written, like the language, is what's to blame there, but it's kind of hard to tell. So the basic story, if I were to take every 50-page chunk and condense it down into the basics of the story, it's pretty interesting. But I don't know, I'm about halfway through right now, and I don't know if I have that kind of patience to slog my way through it. And at this point, the coolness of the ships, those massive, multi-sailed ships, are completely irrelevant to the plot. They have absolutely nothing to do with what's going on. This is not an adventure novel that the cover would have you believe. It is very much narrowly focused into these petty back and forth dramas of these really rich people. And then they have this kid, this foreign kid who is an enigma, and so far he has not done anything to tell me as a reader why I should care about this kid. So there's so many things going on where I have no idea what the purpose of all of this is. And I think that's a miss. I feel like even if the characters don't know, I should at least know why the characters care about this character, but I feel like he's holding everything in really tightly for this big reveal. But the problem is I'm probably not going to get there. So I'm going to keep reading. It hits me in the feels a little bit that this is my second Read Burn Hoard video, and both the books that I've picked to read have been kind of a bust. This one's much better than the first one. At least, even though the style isn't working for me, it's at least a very clear style and written deftly for what it's trying to be. It's just not my personal taste. I have about another week to see how far I can get before I need to wrap up this month's video. I guess burning things is still progress towards getting a comfy chair in this room. It's just not the progress that I was hoping for. My idealistic self thought, okay, every month I'm going to pick a winner and have something off the beaten path to share with everybody. And I'm sure that day is coming. I'm going to find a hidden gem on these shelves that I can share, but unfortunately, Winds of Calicovo, even if I do finish it, I don't think is going to be very high on my recommendation list. I don't know if you can see it, but my neighborhood has a local Roadrunner, and I see it almost every day on my way home from work. It's got its own little territory and it just runs around in here. Often it has a lizard in its mouth or whatever, but yeah, isn't he cute? There he goes. Hey there. Hope you appreciated that little Roadrunner segue. It's so fun to see wildlife close to home. I have an update for you. I officially DNF'd the Winds of Calicovo last night at about 50%. So I have books 2 and 3 here, which, as much as I like the physical copies, they're that really big, satisfying, floppy trade paperback. I am putting them up as candidates for burning for this series. Hurts my heart, but I was just forcing myself through the book. I was not enjoying anything about it. Nothing had picked up. If anything, it got more narrowly focused. There was absolutely nothing to do with those awesome ships. So yeah, a nautical adventure it was not. It's dark in here today because it's raining outside, which never happens. But in lieu of that, I realized I have a couple of weeks left before the video actually needs to go live. So I decided to pick up Pure. I have already read this first book, but the books 2 and 3. I made it halfway through book 2 before it got returned to the library and then just never got back to it, but I remember really enjoying it. If you love dystopian stories and like post-apocalyptic but aren't a huge fan of YA tropes, like this is the one for you, because this is actually an adult kind of dystopian fantasy. And it's really weird and it's really gritty, but I made my way through about one chapter last night and already am so much more engaged in this one than I was in the other one, so I think switching was a good call. So excited for that. Now, these books, which I've talked about, for some reason, I just can't bring myself to burn these. I want to hoard them. But if I'm going to hoard them, I might as well hoard them in style, so you're going to laugh at me. I ordered a hardcover compilation of the first 3 books, and it is currently on its way to my doorstep. Spending money on this project was not what I intended to do, but for some reason I just can't bring myself to let these go, and perhaps if I have a nice little hardcover on there, I might be compelled to get to it again sooner than later. Yep, burning these physical copies, but not the series. Of everything here, the only thing that I really have left to explore that I'm not sure about is Stone of the Stairs by Alison Baird. Stars. I always say stairs, but it's stars. Now, a couple of you have suggested that part of this series I do like, I give some books a chance, like give them about a chapter to see if I like the writing or the story components from the beginning. And I think this would be a perfect candidate for that. But I couldn't quite figure out how to make that work for a video or whatever. But then Nico over at Nico's Book Reviews, one of my favorite booktubers, has a recent video out, which I'll link, of him trying one chapter of some obscure fantasy paperbacks and kind of making a decision then and there of whether or not to get rid of it or keep it. And I'm like, the format was awesome. So I'm taking inspiration from his video, and that's what we're going to do with this one. I don't have time right this second to read it, but it looks like we've got a little prologue. Good Lord. And then 28 pages for a first chapter. Like, that's quite a bit. I don't think I want to give it that much of an effort, but I think I would like to read, maybe I'll spend like 20 minutes on it and see where that gets me. So ignoring the gloomy light, I'm going to go sit over and, yeah, give this a little bit of a go and see where we're at with it. Oh, he did read the excerpts on the back. I'm not going to do that on here because I like to be surprised, kind of, for some books that I go into. Sometimes there are major spoilers in the back of the book that kind of wreck the whole experience for me, because I find if I know anything about what's coming up, I'm not as invested. So I'm not going to read the back of the book of this one. Yeah, let's see how we do. It has a dragon watermark. That's always a good start. So just an initial random thought. The prologue is essentially this big old prophecy, and I just got through saying I don't like it when things are spoiled a little bit, and a prophecy is essentially a spoiler on what's going to come, so I could take it or leave it, but yeah, so far interesting. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so a little further in, there's a lot of massive, like, takes up the whole page paragraphs where we're getting some info dumps. There's also, like, let me tell you a story within a story so that I can add more backstory in and make it look like it's seamless. So we are definitely front-loaded here. I'm not going to lie, I kind of skimmed a little bit over those passages because I don't really care about knowing all of the, like, depth of history right at this moment, since I'm just kind of looking to evaluate, like, type of writing, type of story. So far, aside from those moments, the actual flow of writing and the basic writing is quite good. It's a very pastoral, like, farmer girls swept up into an adventure kind of feel. But yeah, I think I'm about 20 pages in. I've been reading for about 15 minutes. I don't think I'm quite ready to let this one go. I think my hesitance is because it's only available in print format, and I'm not even sure if you can get a hold of copies anymore. If it were available in, like, an ebook, I probably would just, like, let it go and count my losses, because I don't think
I have any desire to pick this one up over all of the other physical reads that I have planned within the next 5 years. And totally honest, I probably won't get to it within another 10, but just a little nervous to let it go. So I'm going to hang on to it for now. We're going to hoard a little bit longer, and then maybe I'll give it some more thought. And I don't know, like, I'm kind of doing this in an orderly fashion, but if I decide to jump back and look at something that I've already done in a previous week, I'll let you know. But yeah, I think for now I'm going to hoard with a big old question mark on whether or not I think I'll actually read it soon. I mean, it's good. There's nothing wrong with this story. I think it's actually kind of fun. But of all the things I have currently on my shelves that are compelling me to read them with like this like bursting excitement, like, oh yay, I can't wait to get to that, this is not one of them. So it's where we're at. And with that decision made, I think I'm ready to do the final like tally of what I'm doing with all of these books. So I know I love the Pure series. I've read 50% of the trilogy and I just need to finish it out. So hoarding those. Hoarding this series for the time being. We shall see how it goes. Burning these, but with a better copy on the way. So there's that. Unfortunately, oh, definitely hoarding these just because I love the covers, even though I am just, something about his writing and I just don't click. But yeah, I will give this series another go at some point. I did like the 12 Kings of Sharakai, first book in the Shattered Sands, much better than what I read of the Winds of Calicovo. So in any case, burning those. Goblin Wood. Of everything on my list here, it had the highest reviews and the most praise, and I actually think it sounds like a lot of fun. In some ways, I wish I hadn't done the Beulu book. I wish I had chosen to dive into that one. I think I would have enjoyed it more. But look, I have space because I did the Beulus, so not bad. And then finally, mentioned earlier in this process, I think I'm okay letting go these random strip copies. So these are getting burned as well. So, made myself a little room in here. Slide everything over. And that is where we're at right now. So kind of to wrap up the video, I've got another couple weeks of reading. I'm going to get as far as I can in this series and yeah, let you know how that goes. But like, look at what we're burning. This is good progress. So let's go take those into the garage. Okay, this is what we have so far. Everything is so freaking dark in here. Okay, rearrange in a second. So okay. Oh yeah, I forgot. I am trying to keep the strip covers separate from the actual covers because these are going to get recycled inevitably, and then all of these are going to get maybe sold, maybe donated to my favorite charity. Haven't decided yet, but okay. 2 episodes in and already we got ourselves a good haul here. Doing good.
Good morning. I am finally ready to wrap up this month's Readbird Hoard and pick out a new shelf. But before I do that, I finished Pure. Really enjoyed it. The first time around, I hadn't read a lot of grimdark books. Not that this is grimdark, but it is a lot more graphic than your average teen dystopian novel, which I think is why it was shelved in fiction as opposed to the actual YA category. A lot of really violent things happened in, like, say, Hunger Games, but it wasn't very descriptive or visceral. I mean, maybe for a teen, but this, it goes there. And I would say a lot of its components are as dark as some of the grimdark novels that I've read. So, that being said, I enjoyed it, probably more so on this time around because I wasn't in total shock from all of the really gory things that were happening. But it's a really cool dystopian book. There's a lot of moving pieces that I still have all the same questions I had last time I read the first one and halfway through the second one. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to actually wrapping up this trilogy this time around and getting some of those questions answered that I've had for a really long time. So, yay, I found one that was a success, even though it was a reread and I knew I liked it. We're counting it. Oh, and I finally had a few definitive thoughts about this series here. Kind of waffling for most of the video, I've realized. So right now, I currently have like 4 different physical reads going because I only have so much eyeball time throughout the day and I've got so many books on my agenda that I want to read. And it has been like that for several years. I just never make as much time as I need to get through all the books that I want to read. And so with that in mind, knowing that I always have 3 or 4 incredibly high priority physical reads in front of me, I will never get around to these. And I feel like I'm holding on to them because I feel like I should, rather than because I'm actually excited to read them. So I am going to include these in the burn portion of the video and let them go. I mean, I'm kind of just stuffing them in a box in the garage so I can always pull them back out if I have remorse, but it feels like the right thing to do. So now my remaining shelf is just 3 different series of things that I'm actually excited to read. So yeah, I think I can live with this decision. So letting these go. So my favorite part, picking the next shelf. This is so exciting. This process has really allowed me to go through and read some of the books that I would not have picked up for years. And I'm really enjoying, it's probably my favorite series I've done on the channel so far. So hopefully you're enjoying watching it as well. Okay. We have shelf number 23. So, beginning of the next video, you'll see what shelf 23 consists of. Thank you so much for joining me for this feature, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.